It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the book launch ceremony of Professor Dr. Huma Baqai's book, Collected Works on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. Let me also take this opportunity to congratulate Dr. Huma Baqai for achieving another milestone in her distinguished academic career. Ladies and gentlemen, this program is organized by Center for International Strategic Studies, Sindh, in collaboration with DHA Suffa University. To formally begin the event, I would like to invite Mr. Abu Bakr from DHA Suffa University for Tilawat-e Kalam-e-Pak.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم اقرأ باسم ربك الذي خلق خلق الإنسان من علق اقرأ وربك الأكرم الذي علم بالقلم علم الإنسان ما لم يعلم كلا إن الإنسان ليطغى صدق الله العظيم.
Sadaq Allahul Azim. Ladies and gentlemen, as we proceed, I would like to mention that this event is an open house activity that will be reported in media. This session is also being live streamed on social media. You are kindly requested to switch off your mobile phones and put them on silent mode. Without further delay, let me now invite Executive Director, Center for International Strategic Studies, Sindh, Ambassador Retired Qazi M. Khalilullah, to deliver his opening remarks for today's event and take over as the program chair. Ambassador Qazi holds a master's degree in international public policy from the School of Advanced International Studies, Johns Hopkins University, USA. He joined Foreign Service of Pakistan in 1985 and served at the Foreign Office headquarters in Islamabad as Section Officer, Director, Director General, and Additional Secretary. Ambassador Qazi held various diplomatic assignments in Pakistan missions abroad, including Russia, Ukraine, Turkmenistan, Switzerland, Myanmar, and Cuba. He was Ambassador of Pakistan to Myanmar from 2008 to 2012, Ambassador to Cuba from 2012 to 2014, and Ambassador to Russian Federation from 2016 to 2019. Ambassador Qazi was the spokesperson of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from May 2015 to February 2016. Over to you, Ambassador Qazi.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable Chief Guest, Lieutenant General Khalid Ahmed Kidwai, retired Advisor Development National Command Authority, Vice Chancellor, DHA Suffa University, Engineer Professor Muhammad Afzal Haque, Professor Dr. Huma Baqai, author of the book and Rector, Millennium Institute of Technology and Entrepreneurship, distinguished discussants, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum. It is a matter of great honor and pleasure for me to chair the book launch ceremony of Professor Dr. Huma Baqai's book, Collected Works on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. At the outset, on behalf of faculty of the Center for International Strategic Studies, Sindh, as well as on my own behalf, I am delighted to convey our heartiest felicitations to Dr. Huma Baqai on her book launch. Dr. Huma Baqai is a well-known scholar and writer and a highly successful professional. She is respected nationally and internationally for her accomplishments. Collected Works on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy is a vast treasure trove of information and valuable source of knowledge about geopolitical seismic events that took place from 2018 to 2022, mostly in our region. She has been forthcoming in expressing her candid views and presenting incisive analysis of the developments in her book. While reading Dr. Huma Baqai's book, one gets an unmistakable sense of being walked through the geopolitical labyrinth. It gives an admirably succinct account and analysis of the regional and international developments which not only had implications for Pakistan's national security but also posed challenges and presented opportunities. Collected works on foreign affairs and security policy comprise 46 carefully selected pieces of Dr. Huma Baqai's op-eds published in print media from 2018 to 2022. The title of the book bears testimony to her deep understanding of foreign and security policies and how they influence each other's formulation. As elaborated by Dr. Huma Baqai in her book, the period from 2018 to 2022 was, inter alia, marked by chaotic withdrawal of foreign forces from Afghanistan, Pakistan's resolute response to India's attack on Balakot, intensification of global power contestation, enlisting of India to contain China, abortive US attempts to browbeat Iran, consolidation of the US-India strategic partnership, enhancing of Pakistan-Russia relations, devastation caused by the pandemic, emergence of Saudi Arabia as a peacemaker in the Middle East with China's support, and opportunities for regional connectivity with Central Asian states through Afghanistan. This period also saw the assignment of the role of net security provider to India under the US Indo-Pacific strategy designed to contain China. However, humiliation faced by India during the Balakot incident in February 2019 and Galwan Valley incident in 2020 proved that India was incapable of performing this role. Dr. Baqai's book includes pieces on Pakistan-Russia relations as well as Moscow format of consultations on Afghanistan. Having served as ambassador of Pakistan to the Russian Federation from 2016 to 2019, these pieces naturally attracted my attention. I can therefore vouch for every word that Dr. Huma has written about the upward trajectory of Pakistan-Russia relations. Over the last 2 decades, the governments of Pakistan and Russia have worked closely at all levels to forge a relationship that is respectful, trustworthy, and mutually beneficial. The enabling environment that both sides have succeeded in creating has opened up new vistas for bilateral cooperation in many fields of mutual interest. Pakistan-Russia relations have successfully enhanced in various fields, including exchange of high-level visits, military-to-military contacts, and trade with priority accorded to import of energy and wheat. Pakistan and Russia also come together as partners in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Interestingly, Afghanistan, which divided Islamabad and Moscow during the Soviet invasion, was helpful in bringing the two countries closer due to shared concerns and approaches to the peace process and the need for orderly exit of foreign forces from Afghanistan. Dr. Huma Baqai has rightly mentioned in her book that Russia valued Pakistan's ability to contribute to Afghan peace process and therefore decided to cooperate closely with Islamabad by establishing the Moscow format of consultations on Afghanistan in 2016. China was the third founding member of this format, which was later expanded to include Afghanistan, Iran, India, and 5 Central Asian states. Russia was also instrumental in bringing Pakistan into the troika on Afghanistan, comprising 3 big powers, Russia, China, and the US. This format thus became Troika Plus. It was a unique honor for Pakistan to join this format, as many other countries, including our eastern neighbor, made unsuccessful attempts to become a part of this exclusive quadrilateral grouping. The Troika Plus format was helpful in pushing the Afghan peace process forward, extending support for a negotiated settlement and stressing that post-withdrawal government in Afghanistan should be inclusive, it should respect women's rights, and should not allow Afghan territory to be used for terrorism against any country. Unfortunately, these concerns remain valid to date. Improvements in Pakistan-Russia relations paid dividends in many other areas of concern to Pakistan. Let me briefly recall some of them. Until 2017, Russia-India joint statement issued after their annual summit included 2 paragraphs against Pakistan in the context of terrorism. Russia refused to accept these paragraphs from 2018 onwards. In February 2019, immediately after Pakistan Air Force shot down 2 Indian Air Force aircraft and Wing Commander Abhinandan was captured, Russia offered to host talks between Pakistan and India. Pakistan accepted the offer, India declined. Russia did not endorse annexation of illegally occupied Jammu and Kashmir by India on 5 August 2019 and its incorporation as union territories of Jammu and Kashmir and Ladakh. Subsequently, despite repeated Indian requests, Russia did not block 2 UN Security Council meetings held on this issue in August 2019 and January 2020. Despite the Ukraine war, Pakistan-Russia relations have continued to develop at their own pace. Pakistan is also maintaining good relations with Ukraine. Pakistan has maintained its neutrality and advocacy of resolution of all conflicts peacefully through dialogue. What is happening closer to home in the context of global power contestation is of greater concern to Pakistan because of its security implications for us. Unconditional Western support India in pursuance of their mission to contain China, India's relentless pursuit of advanced military hardware from its strategic partners, exceptionalism in South Asia, groupings like Quad and Indo-Pacific strategy have adversely affected South Asian strategic stability. However, Pakistan has, time and again, demonstrated its will as well as the capability to defend its sovereignty and territorial integrity and restoring strategic stability in South Asia. All these issues have been very ably covered by Dr. Huma Baqai in her book. With these words, I come to the conclusion of my opening remarks, and now I would be wearing the hat of chairperson of this event. Now, first of all, let me invite Vice Chancellor, DHA Suffa University, for welcome remarks. Let me share his profile with you. Engineer Professor Muhammad Afzal Haque, an alumni of NED University of Engineering and Technology and University of Manchester, UK, has over 44 years of varied and versatile experience. He has served at responsible positions at national and international level in the field of engineering and technology and education. Presently, he is serving DHA Suffa University as Vice Chancellor. Previously, Dr. Haque was associated with Sir Syed University of Engineering and Technology as Vice Chancellor, NED University of Engineering and Technology as Vice Chancellor, and National Fertilizer Corporation as CEO, NFC Institute of Engineering and Technology, Multan. Prior to that, Dr. Haque worked as Managing Director with National Education Foundation and as a Professor and Dean at Haque Institute of Engineering, Sciences and Technology. He also served as Assistant Director at Imperial College of Science and Technology, London. Dr. Haque's research work is well published in peer-reviewed international journals. He possesses 2 gold medals for his outstanding performance, earning him the Molten Golden Medal from Institution of Chemical Engineers, UK in 1993, Presidential Award Azaz Fazilat, Pakistan in 1994, and Lifetime Achievement 2022 from Pakistan Engineering Council. Dr. Haque was recognized as an International Scientist of the Year in 2001 IBC Cambridge, UK. His name is listed in Who is Who in Engineering, USA 1997. He is Founder Fellow of Pakistan Academy of Engineering, Fellow International Engineering and Technology Institute, Founder Member of Canada-Pakistan Council for Education, and Member High Pressure Technology Association, UK. You have the floor, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai Sahab, Advisor Development, National Command Authority, and Chief Guest of today's ceremony. Ambassador Qazi Khalilullah, Executive Director of CISSS. Senator Javed Jabbar, former Senator and Federal Minister. Madam Mr. Ikram Sehgal, Chairman, Pathfinder Group, Pakistan. General Moin Haider Sahab, whom I had some association at the SZABIST University. Professor Dr. Huma Baqai, Rector, MIT, and author of the book. Honorable guest, my faculty members and students, Assalamu alaikum. It is my great proud privilege and honor to welcome you all to DHA Suffa University today on the occasion of the launch of Dr. Huma's book titled Collected Work on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, which has been organized by the Center of International Strategic Studies, Sindh, in collaboration with DHA Suffa University, Karachi. I feel overwhelmed to see a galaxy of luminaries in this room today who will shed luster on the works of Dr. Huma Baqai's work and highlight its significance in today's scenario. I'm not an expert in this field, but all I can say is that the fabric of foreign relations and security policy today is woven with economic relations. If the economic ties are strong enough, they will have a vital bearing on foreign relations and security. Therefore, there's a need to have sustainable economies to ensure good foreign relations and ensure security. I hope experts in the field will offer their valuable comments and provide updates to enlighten us on various ramifications of foreign affairs and security policies, especially from the point of view of developing economies. While on this subject, I would take this opportunity to acknowledge that the author is a highly honored academic and has truly reflected upon foreign policy affairs and security policies based on her understanding of geostrategic complexities facing the country. Her collected works on foreign affairs and security policies is a compilation of her 46 analyzed articles encompassing major events between the period 2018 and 2022, like freeze in the Indo-Pakistan relations, US withdrawal from Afghanistan, Taliban takeover, and Ukraine war, etc. I'm sure the book will provide a useful reading for the students and practitioners of geopolitical policies. In the end, I thank you once again for taking the time out to be with us here today and congratulate the organizers of the event for their hard work to provide us this decent platform. Pakistan Zindabad.
I now have the honor to invite the chief guest of this ceremony, Lieutenant General Khalid Ahmed Kidwai, retired, Advisor Development National Command Authority and Founding Director General, Strategic Plans Division. Lieutenant General Khalid Ahmed Kidwai has led a highly meritorious military service for 49 years. He was awarded the coveted Sword of Honor on graduation at the Pakistan Military Academy, saw frontline combat action in erstwhile East Pakistan in 1970-71 and was a POW in India from 1971 to 73. He has held a variety of prestigious command, staff, and instructional appointments and is a graduate of Pakistan's Command and Staff College, National Defense University, and the U.S. Army Field Artillery School, Fort Sill, Oklahoma. After the May 1998 nuclear tests, Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai pioneered the establishment of Pakistan's National Command Authority and was appointed as the Founding Director General of Strategic Plans Division in December 1998. He served as DG-SPD for 15 years and since 2014 is an advisor to the National Command Authority. As DG-SPD, he conceived, articulated, and executed Pakistan's nuclear policy and deterrence doctrine comprehensively. He translated these doctrines into a robust nuclear force structure, oversaw and ensured the establishment of the Army, Navy, and Air Force Strategic Force Commands, including the development and operationalization of a variety of nuclear weapons. He put in place a state-of-the-art command and control system, as well as an effective nuclear security regime for Pakistan's strategic assets. The resultant policy of full-spectrum deterrence ensures Pakistan's national security, strategic stability, and peace in South Asia. Lieutenant General Khalid Kidwai is also the architect of Pakistan's civilian nuclear energy vision 2050, which will provide Pakistan 42,000 megawatts of electricity, as well as the National Space Program 2040. All in all, Lieutenant Kidwai built a professional SPD as a critical national institution that has earned national and international respect. In recognition of his devotion to duty, strategic vision, and outstanding leadership of Pakistan's nuclear and space programs, Lieutenant Khalid Kidwai has been awarded Pakistan's highest civil award, the Nishan-e-Imtiaz, the second highest Civil Award Hilal-e-Imtiaz in addition to Hilal-e-Imtiaz military. Sir.
Thank you, Qazi Sahab, for the introduction. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Professor Dr. Huma Baqai, Senator Javed Jabbar Sahab, Mr. Ikram Sehgal, Professor Dr. Khalid, Engineer Professor Dr. Muhammad Afzal Haque, Ambassador Qazi Sahab, Honorable ladies and gentlemen of Pakistan's and Karachi's intellectual galaxy, members from the media, faculty members of DHA Suffa University and of the Center for International Strategic Studies Sindh, the CISSS, students of DHA University, Assalamu alaikum. I feel greatly honored to be in the company of this star-studded gathering of Pakistan's respected and well-known intellectuals, academics and professionals. These are people who have devoted their lives in the service of Pakistan and brought laurels and pride to Pakistan and to all of us by simply excelling in their respective fields of expertise, spreading knowledge far and wide, and making varying contributions to Pakistani society. Between them, there's a huge reservoir of wisdom, intellect, expertise, and knowledge that will be the pride of any nation. Let me put it most humbly that Pakistan is immensely proud of all of you. We have gathered here, of course, to launch Dr. Huma Baqai's book, Collected Works on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. It is a collection of articles and op-eds written by her during a 4-year period between 2018 and 2022. Dr. Baqai needs no introduction. She is well known, well regarded, and held in high esteem not only in Karachi and Pakistan, but also internationally. This large gathering is in itself a recognition of her standing and a tribute. While personally, for many years while serving in Rawalpindi, I had heard much about her outstanding abilities and had also read some of her incisive articles, I had not had the good fortune of personal interaction with her till a few years ago. It was only when we were in the process of establishing the Center for International Strategic Studies Sindh in Karachi in early 2021 and were looking for potential members for the CISSS Advisory Board that we hit the jackpot. We requested Dr. Baqai to join us on the advisory board, and she very promptly and graciously agreed to come on board. CISSS has since been that much richer. As most of you would know, Dr. Baqai was Associate Dean, Faculty of Business Administration at Karachi's prestigious Institute of Business Administration, IBA, before being appointed as Rector of Millennium Institute of Technology and Entrepreneurship, MITE. In her illustrious career, besides doing so much else in the academic field, at a fairly hectic pace, if I may say, she has now selected 46 articles, probably out of over 100 of her works, to put together as a book that is being launched today. In a 4 years' time window, this comes to a very healthy average of articles per month. Besides indicating what a prolific writer she is, the collection is also a reflection of the depth and mastery that Dr. Baqai enjoys over some of the most challenging and complex geopolitical issues of our times. Dr. Baqai's canvas of interest, geographically speaking, focuses essentially on the geographical dimensions of the strategic region in which Pakistan is located, and rightly so, because it directly or indirectly bears upon the vital security interests of Pakistan. The subject matter of the book most certainly includes the congenital twins of geopolitics and geoeconomics, and the strategic effects that these generate in South Asia, specifically on the troubled relationship between Pakistan and India. This large geographical or strategic expanse forms a fairly neat rectangle on the map from the Middle East in the west to the Asia-Pacific region in the east, from Russia and China in the north to the limits of the Arabian Sea in the south, and includes for good measure to our north the famous heartland of Mackinder. And add to this the ever-looming long-distance shadow that is cast on the areas of this strategic mosaic by the United States as a superpower of almost 100 years standing, and you have one of the most critically complex regions of the world where we live. This is where the current global power games are being played out between a superpower, the US, struggling to retain its so far undisputed status, and a rising China, which many believe has already risen, as it subtly and softly challenges the superpower in enlarging its influence, mostly in areas of geoeconomics, but also as an extension in geopolitics. Consider the international rush to join the China-sponsored BRICS, the SCO, and the accompanying de-dollarization wave in trade transactions, and we get the general drift of which way the wind might be blowing. Straws in the wind, perhaps. As against this, it appears that the US and the West might just be playing on the back foot in a reactive mode to various Chinese geoeconomics and geopolitical initiatives. Consider the latest outcomes of the G20 meeting in New Delhi this last weekend, the summit declaration, and most visibly, the announcement of the IMEC, the India, Middle East, Europe corridor, in what is clearly a bit of a catch-up game to China, Belt and Road Initiative of 2013, the BRI. Even the acronym IMEC has a familiar soundbite to CPEC. One wonders, though, whatever happened to President Biden's earlier initiative of 2021, which was labeled as Build Back Better World. As of now, however, the figures that are being quoted do make an interesting comparison. The BRI mentions $1 trillion US plus, whereas the IMEC figure has been quoted at $25 billion US. I think time alone will provide some of the answers. As I talk about this vast strategic cum geographical region that is the focus of Dr. Huma Baqai's works, indirectly it also indicates the firm grasp that she enjoys over the geopolitical and geoeconomic issues and developments that continue to emerge in the region from time to time. More often than not, these are issues that are interlinked in a complex web and usually follow a chain of broad continuity in the power play politics and economic policies of the various players in the region. Yet, by the nature of their complexity, these remain ever evolving, therefore demanding ever evolving responses from Pakistan's foreign policy and security establishments. As such, from the perspective of the author, and by extension from the perspective of Pakistan, there is never a dull moment for analysts like Dr. Baqai, who follow these events and developments closely. In her book, she keeps us glued to the strategic subject matters between 2018 and 2022 as these evolved with her incisive views and opinions. Pakistan, due to the sheer pulls and pressures of its geostrategic location and the tough neighborhood, has invariably and continuously experienced foreign policy challenges throughout the 75 years of its existence. One can go back in a short history and start enumerating, recalling, and analyzing each decade since 1947. The 50s and the 60s, which saw an era of early political instability, belonged subsequently to the relatively stable political and economic period of President Ayub. The period witnessed, ironically, not only the blossoming of Pakistan-US romance on the one hand, but also included the crucial opening of strategic relations with China on the other hand. The relationship with China has since solidly stood the test of times over several decades, even though the Pakistan-US romance later turned sour. This was also the period when two wars in South Asia, separated in time and space, left deep strategic effects which continue to reverberate till today in one way or another. I refer to the India-China War of 1962 and the India-Pakistan War of 1965. The 70s of Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's era not only consolidated Pakistan's relations with China to a point that these became the cornerstone of Pakistan's security policy, but also brought a breath of fresh air by strengthening Pakistan's relations with the Muslim world, especially with the holding of the widely popular Islamic Summit in Lahore in 1974. The Islamic Summit, which was one grand event of its kind, was a truly star-studded affair and brought the entire top leadership of the Islamic world to Lahore. It helped in lifting the gloom and doom and the sagging spirits of Pakistanis after the trauma of the loss of East Pakistan in 1971. Most importantly, however, from the perspective of Pakistan's then weakened security, especially after the explosion of a nuclear device by India in 1974 at Pokhara, the Bhutto era marks the birth of Pakistan's nuclear weapons program and is therefore, in my view, the most critical decade of Pakistan history from a security point of view. When we reflect on it, you will probably agree that if that decision had not been taken then, Pakistan today, minus the nuclear weapons capability, would have been at the mercy of its ruthless adversaries. The 80s of General Ziaul Haq's rule saw the continuation of the development of Pakistan's nuclear capability on the one hand, but on the other hand, we also witnessed the invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union in 1979, thereby raising the specter of communism and communist USSR becoming Pakistan's ominous neighbors, if not pushed back. Both developments had profound effects on Pakistan's security. While the nuclear program continued to be developed to secure Pakistan against external aggression for times to come, the war in Afghanistan against the Soviet occupation, though successful in expelling the USSR from the neighborhood, left lasting negative and destabilizing effects on Pakistan's internal security, with which we continue to grapple to this day. Also in this decade, we can add the consequences on Pakistan's internal dynamics of the Islamic Revolution in Iran in 1979. It has had debilitating effects on Pakistan's internal security also and stability with the rise of sectarianism. The 90s were a period of layers upon layers of US military economic sanctions against Pakistan because of Pakistan's continued pursuit of the nuclear program. This, after Pakistan had served the US interest in organizing the fight against the USSR, which eventually led to its disintegration. Pakistan felt used and discarded. The term transactional relationship came into usage and has left a lasting bitterness in Pakistan-US relationship. The 90s also saw the birth of the Taliban movement in Afghanistan with its inevitable negative fallout on Pakistan. The one item, however, that remained rock solid in the 90s too was the national determination and consensus to develop Pakistan's nuclear capability, irrespective of the government in power. Pakistan's finest hour also belongs to the 90s, when in May 1998, Pakistan responded to India's 5 nuclear tests with 6 of our own. The nuclear program thus emerged out of the closet, and Pakistan became the 7th nuclear power in the world, finding stable security against external aggression. There is no doubt that the 2 decades of this 21st century have been defined and shaped worldwide by the events of 9/11, while also retaining the influences in many ways of the events and strategic effects generated earlier in the 5 decades of the 20th century. While Pakistan's robust nuclear deterrence continue to enforce peace of sorts on the eastern border, howsoever fragile, it is the western borders and the state of internal security, especially in Balochistan and the KPK, which have become problematic for Pakistan. The fallout of the post 9/11 US invasion of Afghanistan and Pakistan's participation in the war on terror continues to haunt Pakistan. Some of this can also be attributed to the fallout of the global struggle between the US and China. Pakistan's close strategic relationship with China, particularly the unfolding of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the CPEC, has been opposed by the US and India in an anti-Pakistan and anti-China nexus, and therefore the fillip to the insurgencies in the 2 critical provinces keeps Pakistan destabilized. As you might conclude from the foregoing 7-decade recap that I have placed before you, Pakistan decision makers have invariably been confronted by global and regional challenges, which more often than not were not of our making and were mostly quite beyond Pakistan's control. Pakistan has usually been in a reactive mode and has mostly been responding to the unfolding policies pursued by the US, the USSR of old and Russia of today, China, India, and even at times Iran and Afghanistan. These are the dilemmas and dynamics that Pakistan's geostrategic location shapes and imposes on Pakistan's foreign policy choices and responses. From these 75 years of Pakistan's foreign policy choices and dilemmas, Dr. Huma Baqai has chosen the specific period between 2018 and 2022, during which she has written profusely on a variety of aspects from the perspectives of Pakistan's foreign policy and security policies. In this context, rather than express my views afresh, I will reproduce verbatim and read for the benefit of the audience what I have written in her book as my brief comments. And I quote, Dr. Huma Baqai is a very respected academic and prolific writer on foreign affairs and security matters with a deep understanding of the complex web of geostrategic challenges that face Pakistan. In my judgment, she belongs to the realistic school of thought with feet firmly placed on the ground with respect to Pakistan's security dilemmas. Collected Works on Foreign Affairs and Security Policy is a collection of 46 brilliantly analyzed articles written by her in the critical period from 2018 to 2022, a period which includes major security events like the Pulwama Balakot skirmish with India, the deep freeze in India-Pakistan relations, the inevitable though chaotic US withdrawal from Afghanistan, the Taliban takeover and its ramifications for Pakistan, the rise of the Middle Eastern version of glasnost and perestroika, and the Ukraine war. In each of these developments, Dr. Baqai has presented rational and realistic analysis from the Pakistani perspective in the relevant articles. The book is a highly recommended read for any student or practitioner of geopolitical policies in Pakistan. Unquote. Do I need to say any more? Yes, I think. There is one final word that I would like to say, and this is exclusively to my very dear up-and-coming students of the DHA Suffa University who are studying international relations, strategic studies, or any other subject, and also to the faculty of the Center for International Strategic Studies, Sindh, CISSS, who are also in some ways both researchers and students at the same time, and both are present here in strength. This book by Dr. Baqai should be studied by each one of you as a classic edition, a textbook primer, perhaps, of how op-eds and articles on strategic issues should be written, how a subject matter of topic should be selected according to its importance, relevance, and currency, how the subject matter should be described and elaborated, how the issue should be analyzed critically from all aspects, particularly for their relevance to the larger issues of Pakistan's security, and finally, drawing from the arguments evolved, placing possible but realistic options, choices, and recommendations for the reader, and for that matter, for policy managers to exercise as a response to the issues under discussion. Between the lines, Dr. Baqai's book provides ample guidelines on the writing methodology on how to organize your op-ed or articles. Please use the book as a learning tool. And if there is one word that I would like to emphasize upon it when it comes to offering options, choices, or recommendations, that word is realism. Do not lose touch with the cold reality of the real world. Stay within the realms of prevailing ground realities and understand the strengths as well as limits of Pakistan's national power potential. Remain mindful of how the real world operates. Remember that the real world is ruthless and seeks to serve respective national interest only. The world rides roughshod with policies, and there is no room for compassion or sentiments when it comes to national interests. In the same way, and therefore, your business too is to look out for Pakistan's national interest through cold, calculated, and dispassionate analysis, but with a very clear reality check and understanding of the national power potential. Remember, there are limits to power. Even the US has limits to power. Recall Vietnam and Afghanistan. Recall the USSR in Afghanistan and Russia today in Ukraine. Do not live in a dream world or expect an ideal world. See things from the viewpoint of Pakistan's national interest only. Remember the geopolitical practitioner's cardinal principle: friends and enemies are not permanent, only national interests are permanent. As I end, I would like to offer my sincere felicitations to Dr. Huma Baqai on the publication of this latest book of hers. It's a great effort that she has made, and I'm sure that it will find due recognition and place in the limited literature that is available on Pakistan's foreign affairs and security policy. I also hope that she will continue to write on some of the critical challenges that continue to confront Pakistan despite her heavy workload as rector of the university. My good wishes for her, and I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Honorable Chief Guest, for gracing the occasion and for your insightful views. Let me now invite our discussants to the stage, and in this regard, let me invite Senator Javed Jabbar, retired former Senator and Federal Minister. Professor Dr. Khalid, former Managing Director, Social Policy and Development Center. Mr. Ikram Sehgal, Chairman, Pathfinder Group of Pakistan. And finally, author of the book, Professor Dr. Huma Baqai.
Dr. Huma Baqai, thank you very much for inviting me. Vice Chancellor, Ambassador Ikram Sehgal Sahab, Dr. Khalid, General Kidwai, Mrs. Kidwai, and all you distinguished gentlemen, ladies, Mazhar, Abbas, General Moin Haider, Javed Jabbar, the banking ombudsman, Sirajuddin Aziz Sahab. My God, Kaisar Bengali. I mean, the subversive economist is also here. Majid Aziz, Irshadi.
MashaAllah, great pleasure to be here. To begin with felicitating Dr. Huma Baqai. I know her in 4 capacities. As a fellow Karachiite, most important, Karachi Zindabad. It is only Karachi that can produce a woman like this, है ना? कोई और शहर नहीं है जो उमा को produce करेगा और खालिदा गौस को produce करेगा. G, as a fellow visiting faculty, हम तो बेचारे visiting faculty IBA के रहे हैं साबिक़ा. जब भी इस शरीर लड़की को जाना था कहीं अमेरिका, कहीं बरतानिया, तो पता था कि visiting faculty में फारिग बैठा हुआ है, मक्खियाँ मारता है सारा दिन, कुछ काम तो है नहीं इसको, तो मुझे फ़ोन करके कहते जी जावेद साहब, could you please take my classes? Exploitative slave driver Huma Baqai, right? फिर कई जगहों पर हम साथ बोलने की दावत दी जाती है कि आप आकर और कंफ्यूज करें लोगों को, तो दोनों हम फ़ौरन शरीक हो जाते हैं. फिर चौथी कैपेसिटी थी कि न सिर्फ ऐसे लाइव मासूम ऑडियंसेस को करें, बल्कि पाकिस्तान टेलीविज़न पे जाकर 4 महीनों के लिए मकालमा प्रोग्राम और इंश्योर करें कि कम से कम लोग देखें, क्योंकि वो पाकिस्तान टेलीविज़न पे था. तो हर हफ्ते 1 या 2 दफ़ा इनके साथ बैठकर 21-22 में हमने मकालमे में एक्सप्लोर किए नए ख्यालात, पुराने मामलात के बारे में. So it's a pleasure to see Huma's work, and I want to compliment the Ambassador Qazi and General Kidwai. Both these gentlemen have done such great justice both to the subject or subjects of the book and to the contribution made by the writer, Dr. Huma Baqai. I think very appropriately analyzed, described, and attributed, and I endorse whatever you have said. I may respectfully disagree with 1 or 2 aspects, which I will try to be as respectful as I can, but let me just, not wanting to repeat anything, I have read virtually all these essays when they were published, but particularly after they were brought together in book form. And what strikes me is that the first thing about foreign affairs is the maxim that foreign affairs, judging from the perspective of foreign policy is basically a reflection of internal domestic policy or conditions. Now, judged by that criterion, it is remarkable, a compliment to Pakistan, that despite our volatile, unstable, disintegrated history, 24 years we stayed together, East Pakistan and West Pakistan. But even after 71, when you look at the overall picture, considering how unstable we have been, even under long periods of military rule, there has been volatility, either been terrorism or mullaization of Pakistan under Ziaul Haq. It hasn't been a very calm and peaceful Pakistan for 76 years. It's been a very turbulent Pakistan. That turbulence has not damaged the deftness and skill and care and often wisdom with which we have conducted foreign policy. It's actually a tribute to Pakistan, and we often underestimate it. Even in our reaction to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, it was a domestic compulsion for Ziaul Haq to react, because you cannot ignore the fact that another foreign force has entered your neighborhood, your neighbor's house, and obviously will threaten one's own security. So much as Ziaul Haq was not popular, he's certainly not my most popular leader. He represented the mullaization of Pakistan in a very dangerous way, whose after effects we still feel today. But there was no other choice, and Pakistan made the right choice by opposing the intervention in Afghanistan. And going back earlier, while at the same time being members of anti-communist pacts, along with the US and the UK, Baghdad Pact, which became CENTO, and SEATO, Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, at the same time we managed to construct a very positive relationship with China, communist China. We became the first country in the world to create an air link between Beijing and Islamabad and Karachi, the only country that took the courage and the initiative. So, those are only two examples. I think in all other aspects, whether it is the easy subjects, and by easy I'm not minimizing their importance, the easy subjects like Palestine, or apartheid, or the right of self-determination, Pakistan has always taken a very morally correct, ethically right policy, regardless of its other alignments. So this is the great achievement. Continuous domestic instability, or dictatorship, or democracy, disintegration, and yet the capacity to conduct foreign policy with the intention that it should benefit Pakistan maximally. I think we need to also revisit the thesis that if you build economic relations with another country, you reduce the chances for conflict and you promote goodwill. Looking at the essays that Dr. Huma Baqai has written, those are very pertinent. They do not necessarily address this, but thoughts arise. Is that true? Today, the United States continues to import billions of dollars of goods from China. Simultaneous to the increase in geopolitical tension, rivalry, and competition, US imports from China are about 2 to 3 times what the US for China imports from the US. And yet the US has become dependent on China. And yet at the same time, politically, it has a completely different policy. Even in East Asia, the relations between Japan, South Korea, China, and the US did not change the fact that they needed each other economically. So you had economic relations, but very strong geopolitical tensions. So Dr. Huma Baqai's reflections on foreign affairs in the context of Pakistan and related countries, whether it is the US, China, India, or Afghanistan, also make one think about the value of regional cooperation. I know we are talking about Shanghai, SCO, we are talking about other initiatives, but whatever happened to SAARC? India has maliciously, deliberately sabotaged the first regional cooperation mechanism in South Asia, which has become even more relevant because of Afghanistan. Afghanistan is also a member of SAARC. But as we know, India deliberately vetoed the convening of the overdue summit of SAARC in Islamabad, purely because of a bilateral issue with Pakistan. Ironically, even though bilateral issues are not supposed to be included in the SAARC agenda. So Pakistan has borne this terrible injustice with dignity. It has not raised this issue as well as it should have. Very sorry to hear that, but that is the fact. Turning to security policy, I'm so glad that Dr. Huma Baqai has included at least 3 essays which are very pertinent and compliments to the previous government, which continued the work initiated earlier during Nawaz Sharif's government. Imran Khan's government appointed Dr. Moeed Yusuf as National Security Advisor, and for the first time, a comprehensive document of about 110 pages to which she refers was released, out of which only 50 pages were shared with the public. The rest are classified for understandable reasons. But those 50 pages, for the first time, recognized the importance of non-traditional threats to security. By non-traditional means non-military threats, economic threats, cultural threats, communication threats, which we need to take note of and prepare for. And an extensive process of consultation was undertaken. Unfortunately, with the removal of Imran Khan's government, debate and promotion of discourse on that security policy draft has virtually ceased. The current government doesn't seem to be interested. This is the caretaker government. But even the government before it, the PDM government, simply seems to have lost interest, purely because maybe it was Imran Khan's initiative. Haque, the military was very, very actively involved in it. So it's very unfortunate that public discourse on security, what is security policy, isn't food security important, especially now with inflation hitting the sky and so many other ills of our economy. There is such a need for debate on security policy. There's a very good quote she reproduces from Bekowitz and Haque, the meaning of security. The meaning of security is, the meaning of national security is that you prevent any threat from affecting your internal values. I question that quotation that she has used, because how can you protect internal values? We are not living in a cocoon, in an isolated ward somewhere. We are living in an age of unprecedented mass connectivity. A character living in South America in a remote village can switch on to FM 89 or FM 90 of Karachi and listen to it. So we need to take note that internal values are no longer internal. They are partly global, partly getting narrower. There is this return to religiosity. अपना दिखावे के लिए मज़हब अपने आस्तीन पर पहनने का एक ये रुझान जो पैदा हुआ है, दिखावे वाला इस्लाम. But true spirituality and true faith and respect for each other which we have as a country. We send hundreds of thousands of Muslim children every day to Christian schools, which shows how pluralistic we are. And yet we go and burn 20 churches in Jallianwala, and the whole world thinks of Pakistan as a fanatical extremist state. I want to conclude by reflecting on what national security means to us today. National security has to be judged from how secure is an individual. And due to the terrible decline in law and order, a very alarming rise in militancy and terrorism, the average citizen today, whether it is Karachi where street crime has rocketed, or whether it is in the rural areas where domestic child labor can be actually murdered and people can get away with it. What does it mean to an individual? Security. There's no such thing as ideal security. You can have madmen walking into a department store in America and shooting innocent people dead. So there's no security even in America. But in our country, there's the added one, that citizens disappear. They disappear. And there's no accountability. And you can't say that so-and-so was taken. You have police in uniform violating the decisions of the judges and the Constitution, and walking into people's houses and taking them away, regardless. Is that security? We have the tragic case of Arshad Sharif, killed in Kenya, now almost 10 months, 11 months ago. No mention any longer of what happened to Arshad Sharif. Imran Riaz Khan has disappeared. Even the media sometimes remember him. But what is this? I mean, a man just is taken away by people in plain clothes. They are not in police uniform. And they turn up in court and say, we have no idea. So he's been contracted out to someone else. I mean, that kind of reality, disregard for the Constitution, makes a mockery of what is national security. So national security has to be rooted in respect for human beings and respect for the Constitution and law. And Dr. Huma Baqai's heart is in the right place. I'm sure her husband knows that. And her values, most of all, are also in the right place. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your very candid views. I think you were not only able to present a summary of everything that is contained in the book, but also went beyond it, that reflected your deep understanding of the foreign and security policies of Pakistan. Thank you, sir. Let me now invite Professor Dr. Khalid Haque, former Managing Director, Society, Social Policy and Development Center. Professor Dr. Khalid Haque is former Managing Director of Social Policy and Development Center, Karachi, Pakistan. She is a renowned Pakistani scholar of international relations and human rights and an activist who was awarded the first PhD in human rights from her country. She was a professor of international relations and had also served in the capacity of chairperson of Development of International Relations at the University of Karachi, with additional responsibility of Director of the Center of Excellence for Women's Studies.
Thank you, Huma, for giving me this opportunity of being here and sharing this happiness of your book launch. We have been colleagues at the University of Karachi, but I'm extremely happy that I'm here today with you, despite the fact that I have not been feeling well. I must say, when she asked me yesterday to come and share my views on and about this book, I read this book in one evening, so it's a very readable book. One can be in bed and go through it in one evening. The language is nice. Younger people, if you are sitting over here, you can understand, you can go through it in one evening. So it's a slim book, it's a readable book, it's understandable, and that is one of the qualities which it is considered to be a quality of a book. If it is understandable, it's slim, it's not too heavy, the font and so on and so forth. The second thing which I would like to mention is that the issues which you have, the topics, the articles that you have written, and I could see that there are over a dozen articles on some aspects of Pakistan, US, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, or US, Iran, and so on and so forth. Same goes for Afghanistan. So it shows that your main thinking, main consideration of how the regional developments are impacting Pakistan, how they are influencing. So almost 12 of them, I counted them, are on US with the regional states, including Pakistan, an equal number of Afghanistan with Pakistan and its influences, with the other regional countries and so on and so forth. So your consideration, your concern as to what kind of the regional developments are taking place are very, very clear on through your writings and on the articles that you have selected for this particular compilation. I must say that. The third thing which I would like to mention is that you have also included and talked extensively on the various and on the number of the strategic alliances that are taking place and that would influence directly, indirectly the South Asian countries, and which have the consequential repercussions for the South Asian countries and specifically have created concerns for Pakistan. So I think we need to keep that in mind and need to take that into consideration. You have made your case, you have referred to them, all of those strategic alliances which are coming up. And why the need, why Pakistan felt compelled to move closer to China and to Russia as a consequential repercussions of all those developments that were taking place, the rethinking that have emerged within the foreign policy quarters. So I think it is extremely, I found it to be very, your concerns, your thinking, because when we write something, we write it because we are thinking about it and we would like to write about and on those issues. But you have also written about the economic issues or economic conditions in Sri Lanka, the Ukraine war. So you're keeping yourself abreast with all kinds of developments which either directly or indirectly, in a very subtle way, would be impacting and affecting, or the kind of the wave that is there in the making, and it can impact Pakistan and it would affect Pakistan. That is one thing which I wanted to point out. The second thing, because I don't want to be repetitive, I think there were a number of people who spoke before me. The second thing which I would like to speak about is that you have written about India-Pakistan relations also. Whether we like it or we don't like it, as a Pakistani, each one considers it to be his or her right to speak about and share our thinking about it. You have written some good piece, and you have also written about the demographic terrorism. But I hope that in future you would also be talking and making reference to the 4th Geneva Convention, which Pakistan has hardly made use of in its diplomatic circle. I'm sure about it, or the 35A, because we have heavily referred to Article 370, but we have hardly made reference to 35A. When we are talking about the demographic terrorism, We haven't. The 4th Geneva Convention, Ikram Sehgal Sahab is sitting over here. We haven't actually made use, we haven't made reference to it the way, because there are a number of the Geneva Convention articles which should have been used by the Foreign Office the way it should be, and they should find its place in our writings, both in the newspaper articles and specifically in our research articles, because at least half a dozen Geneva Conventions are being violated by the Indians when we talk about Indian occupied Kashmir. It is an international conflict. There are 3 parties involved in it. So that is one thing that I wanted to point out. Of course, you have talked about, I'm not going to take too much of a time, and as I've said, I would be avoiding it. You have made reference to the coercive diplomacy, time and again. When you're talking about actually rethinking, in other words, you're talking about the coercive diplomacy. That is in vogue. When you talk about do more, actually, we have been dealing about the coercive diplomacy, but are we equipped to be dealing with the coercive diplomacy, and in what manner, in what way, to what extent have we been successful in doing it? I think that again raises certain pertinent questions, and I hope that the remaining articles which you left behind, because only 46 have been picked up out of those 100 articles that you've referred to, you must have, I'm sure about it, that this needs to be looked into. How do we do? Do we look into it and handle it by being very apologetic? Do we need to continue following or looking towards the appeasement policy? We have that kind of an attitude. So how do we deal with it? I think that these are the choices which we need to make and refer to. The third thing which I wanted to, because I continue calling it, Javed Sahab, maaf kar dijiyega, you are the chairman of SPDC. I keep calling it my SPDC, despite the fact that I've been out of it. But I've been associated with it for 11, 12 years. And you have been if you have been associated with an institution for that long, it is my SPDC. I wish the very best for that institute. You know, you have referred to the national security policy 2021-2026. The point is, as a social science student, I have some serious reservations about it. You are very pleased and happy about it. Your book is beautiful. I will only say good things about your book. You're not only my colleague from the university, you're a very dear friend of mine. But I personally have some very serious reservation about it. I have, because the other things which follow it, which accompany it, we cannot see it in isolation. We also need to see National Action Plan. We also need to see Pakistan. We also need to see a host of the other actions that have been taking place. Now, some 2.5 years back, when I stepped out of SPDC, but I continued working on that project, which was a USAID project on countering violent extremism. We had undertaken some 5 studies where we were looking into violent extremism, what generates it. There were 5 studies which we published. Elite impunity, how does it lead it? Poverty, does it contribute into, does it lead into extremism? Bad governance and intolerance. Out of this intolerance we were looking for the evidence, and there were different segments of the society which were present in those discussions. So there is no evidence-based proof that unemployment or the poverty, there is no nexus between the two. We tried to find it. So that is, you have made reference to the 65% youth bulge over here. You have made reference to the unemployment thing. But there is no nexus between the two. There is no proof. There is no evidence to it. To what extent? Yes, uneducated and educated youth. We have seen the educated youth being moving towards the terrorism and so on and so forth. So I think we need to be very careful. And there's a total disconnect. See, the point is, this was all discussion, consultation based. Government, state has its own perception about radicalization and extremism, and the society has its own perception and understanding about it. So there's no consensus on and about these issues till this day as to what is breeding and strengthening these issues in Pakistan. So I personally believe that. And because it is the studies which are leading to us to think on those lines. So there's a disconnect on those basic things. I think I would like to congratulate you for bringing all of these host of the issues, topics together. Some are very topical, but some are very, very serious issues which you have picked up. And many congratulations. Keep writing and keep embarrassing me. I haven't written anything in quite a while. Thank you, Jay, for listening so patiently. Thank you.
Our next discussant is Mr. Ikram Sehgal, Chairman, Pathfinder Group of Pakistan. Mr. Ikram Sehgal is Chairman of Pathfinder Group of Pakistan, which includes two of the largest private security companies in the country, namely Pakistan Security and Management Services PVT Limited and Weckham Hunt Pakistan PVT Limited. He is a defense analyst and a security expert. Mr. Sehgal is also involved in various national and international organizations. He is a member of World Economic Forum, International Organization for Migration, Director, East-West Institute, a US-based think tank, and member World Economic Forum Global Agenda Council for Counter-Terrorism. He is a regular op-ed contributor to newspapers and frequently appears on current affairs program. Let me add something here based on my personal experience. Mr. Ikram Sehgal hosts breakfast on the margin of World Economic Forum annual meeting for dignitaries visiting from Pakistan and his friends. I had the pleasure of attending that breakfast twice in 2004 and 2005. Sir, you have the floor.
Lieutenant General Moin Haider, Lieutenant General Kidwai, Huma Baqai, ladies and gentlemen. I always find myself at a disadvantage when I'm following people like Javed Jabbar and Khalid, because all of them have got degrees from universities. My degree was from the Pakistan Military Academy. And, in the 9-mile run, we used to go with a big pack on. We used to stop at the 8th mile at a place called Ilyasi Masjid. So people ask me, where did you learn your strategy from? I said, from drinking water on the 8th mile of this Ilyasi Masjid. I want to first, before I talk about the book, which I have read, because I read every article of Dr. Huma Baqai when it's published. So the book to me was not new. What was relevant to me was the changes that had taken place between the time that she wrote the book. In the 4 years, a lot have changed. And that is the essence of both foreign policy and security policy. George Washington, when he was leaving his 2-year term as president, he left a message for Congress. He said, never make inveterate friends and never make inveterate foes. What he meant was, do not have permanent friends and do not have permanent foes. These keep changing. A lot has changed in Pakistan's time. A lot has changed. And we talked about, our foreign policy. We are today existing as a nation today because of the brave decision Zulfikar Ali Bhutto took, one, and then, of course, followed by another brave decision by Nawaz Sharif when he exploded the bomb and brought us in. And I want to take this time to acknowledge very bluntly that the nuclear deterrence that we have honed and perfected could not have been possible without General Kidwai. He had to chart a very, very delicate course. This was a course that had to take into account our foreign detractors, our domestic detractors, our resources, our, how to put it together. At the same time, since we were the only, let us say, Muslim nation having a nuclear deterrent, to portray to the world that this was not meant except as a deterrence to India. And that by itself was a very major achievement. And I think one of the achievements was that in Pakistan, which is very, very relevant, is we can discuss anything, but thank God we can't discuss the SPD in public or on the social media. Right? So, which is good. Because what happens is that here is something that is central to our security. Dynamics keep changing. We were the darling of the West in the 80s. We became the pariah in the 90s. In 2000, the decade, they had discovered us again. By 2020, they had left us high and dry. So these keep changing. And as General Kidwai had pointed out, that, our from cornerstone to gravestone is not a long distance. So this thing kept changing, but to keep that particular dynamics, and something that again Javed Jabbar pointed out, that whatever happened, our foreign policy remained constant. And that is a remarkable achievement, which I attribute to people like Ambassador Khalilullah and Ambassador Qazi, who's sitting there today and looking at his mobile at the moment and not listening to me. But the point is, people like them and other the great people that we have in our foreign office, who kept the ball rolling, kept the thing going in every country that they served. Some time back, as member of the World Economic Forum, I realized that India was not going to give us safe conduct for trade of anything through India. So I thought, here is a challenge which we can turn into an opportunity. So we turned that into an opportunity, and we call ourselves that we are the gateway of Eurasia. Karachi is the gateway of Eurasia, because obviously the rail lines, everything can't go through India, the roads can't go through India because they don't allow us. So this is the gateway. And European countries took that also, but did not pay much attention to it till the Ukraine war. The Ukraine war stopped 3 major lines from China to Europe. And because of the stoppage of the 2 Belt and Road initiatives, Pakistan became a crucial part of it. What we failed to understand was that it was not the China-Pakistan economic corridor only, but it was also the North-South corridor, the inherent corridor that we had because of the RCD highway. RCD had developed a highway. RCD had developed rail communications. Pakistan, Iran, Turkey. Natural block, which was, of course, when it suited the West, it was sent to, and before that, Baghdad Pact. When it didn't suit them, We were from their darlings, we became the other side. The whole thing points out to opportunities lost. Not many people know that Russia did turn, Soviet Union, not Russia, did turn to us after the 65 war, did give us military aid. Yes, I flew a Russian helicopter also, Mi-8s, right? The artillery had a lot of guns from Russia. A lot of weapons came in from Russia. It all failed because of the Yahya Podkorny ill-fated meeting in Iran, which was the Shah of Iran, out of good faith, was trying to set up, trying to bring Soviet Union away. The result of that was the Indo-Soviet Treaty, which ultimately ended up in the 71 debacle. So, again, Russia, I think I agree with Javed Jabbar. We had no choice when the Soviet Union came into Afghanistan. But I think the next time around we did have a little choice. And we could have exercised a little more balanced judgment or got a little more out, from our friends, But look at the imbalance of it today. The imbalance of it. For 30, 40 years, we have harbored the Afghan people in refugee camps, giving them aid, giving them education, etc. Today, they are our greatest enemies. What is happening on our borders? What is happening inside? You think it could have been done without the Afghan Taliban government being involved? Impossible. Now, we have to accept that. And we have to make sure that the new dynamics, it is coming up, which is that Saudi Arabia and Iran are on a rapprochement drive, and that benefits us. Because a long time back, we've talked about the gas pipeline from Iran to Pakistan, right? And go on to India for all we care. But the point is, we need that energy. We need the energy which can come from on the northern pipeline, right? So we need all these things. Because I want to repeat something that a lot of people talk about, is that, you cannot dictate foreign policy out of emotions. You've not got to dictate it out of your realism. And realism means pragmatism. And pragmatism means while not sacrificing your national interest. And I think that to an extent, I'm sorry to say, that we've had to do. And that we've had to do for a main reason. Because we cannot get ourselves free. We should have a balanced policy. I don't say that China has been a great support to us. There was a time in 1970, you will not believe it, when China did not have helicopters. Right? I was on the KKH flight, Karakum Highway flight, flying the Chinese in a Lloyd-3 French helicopter, right, as a Pakistan Army aviation pilot. That was almost 53 years ago. But today, China has gone beyond imagination as far as the development is concerned. We can do that. But remember, security policy is rooted in economics. We've got to get our economics together. Right now, the government has woken up suddenly and started cracking down on foreign exchange. Right? This is nonsense. Total scam. We've got 18,000 banks which can give away foreign exchange, and we opened up 2,000 foreign exchange dealers. Now suddenly they've woken up and they've started with that thing. That is why the exchange rate is coming down. It will come down even more. Then let us understand the capacity tax by the IPPs, the independent private producers. When I was chairman Karachi Electric, there were about many IPPs that were not producing electricity and not giving electricity to us. because they said, we cannot give electricity, but they were getting money from the government of Pakistan for not producing electricity. They were being paid for not producing electricity, right? And we were there quietly, I think. Some of those plants do not even have the machinery. But we lived by these scams. And there are a number of other scams which I can talk about. But I really wanted to eulogize Dr. Huma Baqai. She has been our colleague in the Karachi Council for Foreign Relations. And because of that, number of times she has accompanied us, our delegation, to the World Economic Forum. And without doubt, whether it was women empowerment, whether it was financial inclusion, whether it was foreign, the thing, a lot of people there said, where do you get people like this in Pakistan? Because they thought everybody comes in a burqa and can't speak, right? So, Dr. Baqai is not what you have produced, for me it's not a surprise, right? But I do hope that what you have produced, people take benefit of it, people take advantage of it, and and make sure that you then take a decision based on your own understanding of the realities. That is the most essential thing, that your decision should be based independently, based on the realities existing at that time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable thoughts and also nice words about Pakistan's diplomacy and diplomats. Our last speaker is author of the book, Dr. Huma Baqai.
Rahim, Assalamu alaikum, and I'm both honored and humbled. If I was to thank people who've turned up today on my invite personally, the lunch would be delayed. So a huge thank you to all those people who came here on my personal invite, and of course then thank you to General Saab and Ambassador Saab जिन्होंने book को sponsor भी किया. General Saab ने तो उसके हवाले से किताब में कुछ लिखा भी है. आप लोग अगर किताब पढ़ें तो वो कमेंट मेरे लिए बहुत इम्पॉर्टेंट है जो जनरल साहब ने किताब पे दिया है. बहुत सारे थैंक यूज़ हैं. द फैक्ट कि DHA सफ़ा यूनिवर्सिटी ने वाइस चांसलर साहब ने इस काबिल समझा इस किताब को कि हमें वेन्यू दिया और फिर इस किताब की आज फॉर्मल लॉन्च हुई. मैं किताब के बारे में तो बात नहीं करूँगी, जितनी बात किताब के बारे में हुई वो मुझे भी नहीं पता था. सो it was very humbling for me to hear all that about the book. But there are certain things that I want to share. For example, ये मेरी तीसरी किताब है और दो जो मेरी पहली किताबें थी वो एडिटेड बुक्स थी, और जो मेरी पहली किताब की पब्लिशर हैं वो भी यहाँ तशरीफ़ रखती हैं. अमीना सैयद ने मेरी पहली किताब मेकिंग सेंस ऑफ पोस्ट कोविड-19 पॉलिटिक्स पब्लिश की थी, जिसको KCFR ने, जिस वक्त इकराम सहगल साहब उसके चेयरमैन थे, उन्होंने उसको सपोर्ट किया था. जो मेरी पहली दो किताबों में मेरी को एडिटर थी डॉक्टर नौशीन वासी, वो भी यहाँ तशरीफ़ रखती हैं. तो मैं ज़ाहिर है उनकी बहुत मशकूर हूँ. और जब मैं सबकी बातें समझ रही थी तो गलतियाँ जिसने निकाली वो डॉक्टर खालिदा गौस थी. वो तो ज़ाहिर है होना था क्योंकि मैंने उनके अंडर PhD किया है, तो उस्ताद रहता है उससे तो कभी आप वो नहीं कर सकते. मेरे लिए बहुत हम्बलिंग एक्सपीरियंस था कि जिस खातून ने, और यहाँ से भी उठ के चले गए कैसर बंगाली, डॉक्टर खालिदा गौस ने और डॉक्टर कैसर बंगाली ने मुझे लिखना सिखाया है. और आज मैं इसलिए लिख सकती हूँ कि इन्होंने मेरी हर लाइन में गलती निकाली थी. तो आई एम ग्रेटफुल टू देम फॉर दैट. एंड देन ऑफ कोर्स जावेद जब्बार साहब बिल्कुल सही कह रहे थे. जब मुझे कहीं IB में बड़ी सख्ती है, आपको पता हो ना, और मैं पढ़ाती थी, आई वाज अ प्रोफेसर देयर, तो जाना पड़ता था कहीं, तो वो कहते थे आप जाएं, मसला कोई नहीं है, क्लास नहीं ख़त्म होगी. तो एक बंदे जिसने मुझे कभी नो नहीं कहा, दैट इज़ सेनेटर जावेद जब्बार. आई वुड कॉल हिम, मुझे डांटते थे, लड़की अब कहाँ जा रही हो. मैं कहती थी प्लीज़ क्लासेस ले दें एंड he would do that. And then, of course, we did TV shows together. But you know, I am who I am today because I have the support of people like you here. जिसमें जावेद इकबाल साहब हैं जो बहुत पहले जब हमारी सिंध गवर्नमेंट जो थी, गवर्नमेंट के लोगों को कहीं जाने नहीं देती थी, तो जावेद इकबाल साहब ने फ़ोन किए थे कि भाई इसको पढ़ने जाने दो तो जावेद इकबाल साहब आप हैं और आप जैसे बहुत सारे लोग यहाँ बैठे हैं। मज़हर जिनके साथ मैंने जर्नलिज्म में काम किया, ऑफ कोर्स जो मेरी फॉरेन पॉलिसी का एक्सपोजर और ग्रूमिंग हुई उसमें इकराम सहगल साहब का बहुत बड़ा हाथ है। KCFR के साथ अब मेरी एसोसिएशन इज़ फॉर कराची काउंसिल फॉर फॉरेन रिलेशंस इज़ फॉर ओवर 15 years now. So all of that groomed and allowed me to become who I am. Last but not least, 2 लड़कियां हैं, पीछे कहीं होंगी, महरीन और सुंदस। मुझे नहीं पता कमरे में हैं या नहीं। Okay, stand up girls, I can ask you to stand up. And Sundas, these 2 girls did my first drafts. ये मेरा बहुत काम करके देती हैं, मेरी रिसर्च करके देती हैं। I can't be who I am today. जो मैं काम करती हूँ उसमें जो रिसर्चर्स होते हैं, जो बिल्कुल यंग बच्चे होते हैं, उनका कितना बड़ा किरदार होता है हम एक्नॉलेज करना भूल जाते हैं। तो इन 2 बच्चियों ने मेरे साथ काम किया। गुले रुखसार एक और बच्ची है जिसने मेरे साथ इस किताब में काम किया। एंड लास्ट बट नॉट लीस्ट, I am grateful to Paramount for accepting to publish this book. I'm told by them that it is doing well. ये जो टाइटल है किताब का, the credit goes to Miss Sumbul at Paramount. This is all I had to say. I'm not going to keep you from your lunch. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for supporting me. It is people like you who allow people like us to grow. Thank you again. आप खाना खाइएगा। एक छोटा सा अनाउंसमेंट मैं करना चाहती हूँ। अमीना यहाँ बैठी हैं। अमीना ने एग्री किया है कि अदब फेस्ट जो नवंबर में होगा, मैं अमीना इस किताब को वहाँ भी फॉर्मली लॉन्च करेंगी। ऑल ऑफ यू आर कॉर्डियली इन्वाइटेड टू कम टू द अदब फेस्ट एंड ऑफ कोर्स टू माई सेकेंड बुक लॉन्च देयर। द बुक इज़ अवेलेबल। एक बात और बता दूँ, जब मेरी पहली बुक लॉन्च हुई, और जावेद जब्बार साहब हमेशा तशरीफ़ लाते हैं जब मेरी बुक लॉन्च होती है, स्पीकर ना भी हो तो ज़रूर आते हैं। इसी तरह मजीद अजीज़ साहब बैठे हैं जो ज़रूर आते हैं। जब मेरी पहली किताब लॉन्च हुई तो उन्होंने वो किताब, उस वक्त हम ऐसे ही दे रहे थे, जावेद जब्बार साहब ने कहा नहीं, मैं किताब पैसे लेके दूंगा, हम इतना खर्चा करते हैं, किताबें भी ख़रीद लेनी चाहिए। बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया।
Well, thank you very much. It's your prerogative to thank everyone, but I believe you have. So if you...
I mean, I can't be grateful enough. यहाँ बहुत सारे नाम हैं। जनरल मोइनुद्दीन हैदर साहब तशरीफ लाए। उन्होंने मुझसे कहा मैं DHA जा चुका हूँ, वहाँ सीढ़ियाँ चढ़नी पड़ती हैं। But he took time out to be here. So मैं आपसे कहूँ ना, अगर मैंने नाम लिया तो बहुत देर हो जाएगी। जहारा आई हुई हैं, वैसे साहब आए हुए हैं, नुसरत मिर्ज़ा साहब तशरीफ रखते हैं। I'm extremely grateful to all of you for taking out the time here. And once again, General साहब बहुत शुक्रिया किताब को सपोर्ट करने का। एम्बेसडर साहब आपका बहुत शुक्रिया।